Neuralink's Blindsight, Reimagining the Gift of Vision. About the case. Courses for discussion. The case is suitable for use in the subjects of business innovation, entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, and marketing strategy. Target audience. The case has been designed for audience encompassing MBA students, management scholars, strategy enthusiasts, startup entrepreneurs, business leaders, strategic thinkers, teachers, and researchers of business management. About the case verse. The case verse is your space to explore real-world business events, decode disruptions, and uncover timeless management insights. Our mission: build critical thinking, scenario analysis, strategic perspective, and sound decision-making, the foundations of leadership excellence. Each video presents a case from current business reality, distilled into clear narratives and linked to proven management frameworks. Whether you're a student, teacher, manager, entrepreneur, or thought leader, the case verse helps you analyze, reflect, and stay ahead with actionable insights. Here, business is not just studied, it's experienced, questioned, and reimagined. Join our community where every case holds a verse, and every verse shapes the future of business. Overview. Case domains. This case encompasses the domains of innovation, complex problem solving, new product development, disruptive innovation, strategy. Theoretical lens. Framework applied. This case leverages Clayton Christensen's Disruptive Innovation Framework, Kim and Maubagny's Blue Ocean Strategy, Everett Rogers' Technology Adoption Lifecycle. The said frameworks can be used to analyze and interpret the scenario. Learning goals. By working through this case, participants will be able to analyze how radical technologies emerge and disrupt established solutions, evaluate how companies can create uncontested market space rather than compete in existing ones, understand the dynamics of early adoption, diffusion, and mainstream acceptance of new technologies, reflect on ethical, social, and commercial dilemmas in scaling new technology, propose strategic actions for Neuralink to move from experimental prototype to sustainable market presence. For a free copy of teaching note for this case, mail thecaseverse1@gmail.com. Introduction. In August 2025, Neuralink, the neuro-technology company co-founded by Elon Musk, unveiled a prototype of Blindsight, an implant designed to restore partial vision to individuals with severe visual impairments. The innovation promised to decode neural signals in the visual cortex and project rudimentary images or shapes that allow the visually impaired to perceive their surroundings. Though still experimental, the announcement electrified the global tech community and healthcare sector alike. The excitement escalated when Anand Mahindra, chairman of the Mahindra Group and a prominent voice in India's innovation discourse, praised the development as not only a technological marvel but also a transformative tool for human dignity. His endorsement triggered widespread debates. Was this the beginning of a new frontier in healthcare? Or was it an overambitious experiment still years away from real-world impact? This case explores Neuralink's attempt to reimagine the boundaries of vision restoration. It examines how a company at the intersection of neuroscience and artificial intelligence is navigating uncharted markets, challenging established medical technologies, and shaping the future trajectory of human-machine integration. The challenge of visual impairment. Vision loss remains a vast global health burden with staggering numbers and deeply entrenched inequities. More than 2.2 billion people worldwide experience some form of vision impairment or blindness. Of these, at least 1 billion cases could have been prevented or remains unaddressed, even though effective treatments such as cataract surgery or corrective lenses exist. 43 million individuals live with blindness, and another 295 million suffer from moderate to severe visual impairment. Up to 77–90% of such cases are preventable or treatable given adequate access to care. Uncorrected refractive errors like myopia, hyperopia, and cataracts remain the leading causes of visual impairment globally. Other key contributors include age-related macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, and glaucoma, particularly in older and high-income populations. The economic toll is also significant. Loss of productivity due to vision problems is estimated to cost the global economy $411 billion annually. Yet, it is the inequalities in access to eye care that amplify the problem. Low and middle-income countries bear over 90% of the global burden of visual impairment. In these regions, vision loss rates are up to 4 to 8 times higher than in wealthier nations, compounded by deficits in healthcare infrastructure, provider shortages, and rural-urban disparities. Women, older adults, people living in rural communities, and ethnic minorities are disproportionately affected. Even where simple solutions exist, they too often fall short due to systemic barriers. Conditions like diabetic retinopathy can be managed or slowed with early intervention, yet they remain among the leading causes of blindness because of gaps in screening and timely care. Similarly, low-cost cataract surgeries, a proven cure for age-related vision loss, fail to reach millions due to logistical and financial obstacles. While many cases of vision loss are both preventable and treatable, entrenched structural, economic, and geographic challenges continue to leave vast populations underserved. Against this backdrop, traditional assistive strategies such as eyeglasses, braille, mobility training, and retinal implants offer incremental relief, but do not fulfill the deeper need for restoring natural sight in cases where the visual system is fundamentally compromised. The unmet need remained. Could technology bypass the damaged eye altogether and directly interface with the brain to simulate vision? Neuralink's experiment. Neuralink's venture into restoring human vision, dubbed Blindsight, marks a bold leap in the field of neuroprosthetics. Unlike traditional treatments targeting the eyes or optic nerves, this technology bypasses them entirely. From laboratory to living brain. FDA breakthrough designation. In September 2024, the US Food and Drug Administration granted breakthrough device status to Blindsight. This doesn't mean it's fully approved. It simply accelerates development and review for devices addressing life-altering conditions. Mechanism of action. The device consists of a microelectrode array implanted directly in the visual cortex, the brain's region responsible for processing vision. The implant is wired to stimulate neurons based on patterns relayed from a camera, creating perceptual phosphenes, spots of light that, when arranged, form a rudimentary visual perception. Humans or monkeys? Neuralink has successfully tested Blindsight in monkeys, with reports indicating the devices have been functioning effectively for years, showing sustained safety and basic visual responses. Low resolution, grand vision. As Elon Musk cautioned, initial functionality will be extremely limited, comparable to Atari graphics in visual clarity. However, he envisions future iterations capable of superhuman vision, including infrared, ultraviolet, or radar-like perception, liberating vision from biological constraints. Timeline for human trials. Neuralink aims to perform its first human implant of Blindsight by the end of 2025, according to Musk's statement at a town hall event in Wisconsin. Yet, some reports suggest this could shift into early 2026, potentially in collaboration with institutions like the Cleveland Clinic. Related Neuralink progress. The company has already implanted its BCI, brain-computer interface, chip, referred to as telepathy, in 5 paralyzed human patients by mid-2025. These users control devices, computers, TVS, design software, using only their thoughts, showcasing early-stage success. Expert insight and limitations. Cautious optimism from neuroscientists, specialists like Ion Fine at the University of Washington and biomedical engineer Philip Troik at the Illinois Institute of Technology note that while Blindsight may not produce natural vision, it could become a meaningful assistive technology especially for patients literally seeing nothing currently. Technological constraints. One fundamental challenge lies in the electrode density. Too few implant points yield very coarse visual signals, a few stars blinking, making useful perception extremely rudimentary at present. Neural development caveats. Critics caution that individuals blind from birth may not have developed the neural pathways necessary to interpret visual input, even if their visual cortex remains intact. Their brains may simply lack the scaffolding to convert electrical signals into coherent perception. Neuralink's Blindsight prototype represents a daring convergence of neuroscience, AI, and implantable hardware. It offers a radically different pathway toward vision restoration, one that flips established medical thinking by targeting the brain directly. With encouraging animal data, special FDA status, and a bold human trial timeframe, the project stands on the cusp of possibility. Yet profound technical and biological uncertainties remain. They are as great as the promise itself. Breaking away from the conventional. Neuralink's Blindsight stands in sharp contrast to traditional vision-restoring interventions, moving beyond enhancements to a fundamentally new pathway in reversing blindness. Assistive technologies, useful yet limited. Assistive tools serve the visually impaired by compensating through alternate sensory channels, but they do not restore sight in the literal sense. Orientation aids like white canes and guide dogs provide safe mobility but offer no visual perception. Tactile and audio tools, such as braille, screen readers, and text-to-speech devices, enable communication and navigation, but rely heavily on non-visual senses. Wearables leveraging AI are gaining traction. For example, Era, a human-assisted video streaming service, helps visually impaired users perform daily tasks. It had 400 subscribers shortly after launch. Devices like or Cam My Eye provide object and text recognition via audio, improving autonomy at a much lower cost, around $4,000 to $6,000 retail. Retinal prosthetics, early innovation, high cost, moderate impact. Devices like the Argus 2 retinal implant represent early efforts at restoring rudimentary vision. The technology employs a camera linked to a microelectrode array on the retina to generate basic visual signals. The Argus 2 received FDA humanitarian use clearance in 2013 and EU approval in 2011. It costs approximately $115,000 to $150,000, excluding surgical, training, and rehabilitation costs. Results from a 5-year clinical trial showed that 24 out of 30 patients retained functioning implants with significant improvements in objective vision tasks and real-world mobility. Nonetheless, long-term complications like antenna failure and tissue growth emerged, leading to surgical refinements. The device showed favorable cost-effectiveness with an incremental cost per quality-adjusted life year (QALY) ranging from €28,588 to thresholds considered acceptable by many health systems. But uptake remained limited. Only 100 to 200 patients had received the implant worldwide by the mid-2010s, despite an estimated 10,000 to 15,000 eligible persons in the US. Challenges and risks of conventional implants. Despite technical success, retinal implants faced structural limitations. High costs, well beyond the reach of most patients or healthcare systems, curtailed broader access. Limited resolution. Argus 260 electrode array delivered only rudimentary light patterns and shapes rather than detailed images. Company instability. In 2020, Second Sight discontinued support for Argus implants. Over 350 patients were left with obsolete, unrepairable devices, raising alarming concerns about implant obsolescence and patient safety. Neuralink's Blue Ocean approach, a cleared path through innovation. Neuralink's Blindsight distinguishes itself by bypassing the eye entirely and targeting the visual cortex, a radical departure that opens up completely new market space. Instead of tweaking existing retinal, assistive, or peripheral technologies, Blindsight proposes to reprogram the brain's visual pathways, offering a novel sensory experience rather than incremental adjustment. By doing so, Neuralink enters an uncontested arena where traditional ophthalmology and assistive device specialist firms do not operate, thus breaking away from incremental competition and charting new ground. What this means strategically. Neuralink avoids head-to-head competition with entrenched solutions by redefining the problem space, not how to help the blind cope, but how to let the blind see again. This shift bypasses the limitations of prior technologies, short-term functionality, high cost, low resolution, and brittle business models, by aiming for a fresh sensory interface directly with the brain. However, this bold move carries immense technical complexity, ethical considerations, and regulatory scrutiny that far exceed those faced by conventional approaches. The journey from novelty to acceptance. The journey from novelty to acceptance begins with a visionary idea, often met first with cautious intrigue rather than immediate embrace. Brain-machine interface technologies, such as those underlying Neuralink's Blindsight, trace their development back to deep brain stimulation systems for Parkinson's disease and epilepsy, devices whose validation rested on decades of rigorous trials and regulatory scrutiny. Contemporary estimates confirm that implant-based interventions can cost anywhere from tens of thousands to over $100,000 before accounting for surgical and follow-up expenses. These figures place such innovations firmly beyond the reach of most, reinforcing their niche status. The clinical pathway is long and fraught. Regulatory bodies such as the FDA classify neural implants in the highest risk category, often demanding multi-year data demonstrating both safety and efficacy before approval is granted, a process that can take well over half a decade. Even when the device shows promise, patients face continued challenges. Battery degradation, material wear in the brain's aqueous environment, or unclear protocols for long-term maintenance all contribute to uncertainty. Public sentiment deepens the complexity. A recent Pew Research Center survey revealed that while many Americans support medical uses, such as enabling movement for paralyzed individuals, 77%, or treating age-related decline, 64%, significantly fewer endorse cognitive enhancement or direct thought-to-text applications. More than half of respondents viewed elective brain chips as meddling with nature, and only 1/5 said they would personally opt for one. Ethical challenges further complicate adoption. The consent process for neuroprosthetic trials must address not just technical risks, but also questions of identity, autonomy, and expectations. Authors note that unrealistic hope or social pressure may skew participation decisions, raising concerns around informed consent. Even successful deep brain stimulation patients have faced anguish when trials ended and support disappeared. Replacement batteries alone can cost over $15,000, and often insurers and manufacturers provide no cover. On the technological frontier, companies like Precision Neuroscience and Synchron are advancing less invasive systems and gaining traction with regulators, offering a counterpoint to more radical approaches. But such innovations remain largely within research settings, accessible only to those with the resources and resolve to navigate experimental care. Taken together, the path to acceptance for a neurovision implant like Blindsight is not linear but uneven. It must cross the chasm from early visionaries and patients with no alternatives to the broader public, navigating high costs, extensive regulation, ethical scrutiny, and cultural hesitation, before it can be normalized as a trusted medical intervention. The competitive landscape. As Neuralink charges ahead with its high-profile efforts to bring Blindsight to human trials, several other entities are quietly progressing across parallel tracks. Precision Neuroscience, for instance, has built its strategy around a minimally invasive implant that rests atop the brain rather than penetrating it. This Layer 7 cortical interface earned clearance from US regulators in April 2025, signaling not only a technological milestone, but also a fast-track entry into clinical applications. The company is moving quickly. After raising over $100 million late last year, they acquired a dedicated manufacturing facility in Dallas, enabling swifter iteration and rigorous quality control of their implant hardware. Another noteworthy player, Paradromics, has taken Hyben with ambitions into human testing. Their Connex's BCI, capable of recording thousands of channels through a surgically implanted cortical module, has already been placed during epilepsy surgery, marking a transition from preclinical to clinical stage. It too benefits from FDA breakthrough device designation, underscoring its potential and accelerating its pathway forward. Synchron offers a contrasting approach to interface hardware, eschewing open brain surgery entirely in favor of delivering its Tentro device via the bloodstream. This endovascular implantation has already been performed in multiple humans, largely avoiding the invasiveness of craniotomy and providing a viable route to broader clinical adoption. Meanwhile, established neuro-technology firms such as BlackRock Neurotech also remain in the field, relying on decades of clinical experience with the Utah array and offering solutions with strong historical validation, though their path to commercialization remains cautious. Beyond the deepest trenches of neurotech startups, those working on bionic eye systems like Science Corporation's Prima implant, which rests under the retina and has shown promise in improving acuity for patients with age-related macular degeneration, are advancing retinal-based solutions that feed into the brain through the natural visual pathway. These firms occupy a different niche entirely focused on the eye, rather than bypassing it altogether. Taken together, the competitive environment around Neuralink is rich and diverse. Some rivals prioritize less invasive procedures and regulatory conservatism, others push bandwidth and data processing, while still others focus on optical implants that operate within established ophthalmic paradigms. Each of these trajectories offers a different balance of risk, scalability, and timeline. Neuralink, with its highly integrated robot-assisted surgical system and cortical threading, leans into bold design and full-stack control, but may face steeper regulatory and adoption hurdles. Potential markets. Every emerging technology carries both the spark of disruption and the shadow of skepticism, but when the potential audience numbers in the millions, dreams start to look remarkably tangible. Today, approximately 2.2 billion people live with vision impairment, and 1 billion of those cases remain unaddressed or could have been prevented with available treatments. These figures highlight a vast, unmet need offering both urgency and opportunity. Among them, 43 million endure total blindness, and another 295 million face moderate to severe vision loss, underscoring the sheer scale of possible impact. Population aging and demographic shifts further intensify the challenge. Latest projections anticipate a dramatic rise by 2050, with blindness potentially affecting over 114 million and moderate to severe impairment swelling toward 588 million. This surge is being driven not only by sheer numbers, but also extended lifespans and prevalence of age-related eye diseases geographically. The bulk of this burden falls on low and middle-income regions, where 89% of those with visual impairment reside, especially concentrated in regions such as South Asia, East Asia, and Southeast Asia. These areas not only have high incidence, but often lack adequate treatment infrastructure, making the emergence of breakthrough technologies potentially transformative if affordability and distribution are managed effectively. Amid conventional pathways like cataract surgery, eyeglasses, and retinal prosthetics, each only addresses part of the puzzle. A true cortical solution like Neuralink's Blindsight could introduce itself within multiple patient groups. The first group includes individuals with total or near-total blindness due to retinal or optic nerve failure, but with an intact visual cortex, a cohort for whom conventional treatments offer no recourse. A second dimension of opportunity lies in the elderly population affected by age-related macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, or glaucoma. These conditions are growing in prevalence globally, particularly as populations age, creating emerging demand for high-value solutions. Beyond therapeutic application, there's an unrealized extension, augmentative or enhancement uses, such as vision beyond normal human perception, infrared, low-light capabilities, augmented sensing. Though these remain speculative today, they hint at a potential market expansion if the technology proves safe and scalable. Taken collectively, these statistics and projections reveal an enormous and growing global market, ranging from currently underserved patient populations to future enhancement use cases. The central question becomes not whether the market exists, that is evident, but whether the solution, the business model, regulatory path, cultural acceptance, and economic accessibility can be orchestrated effectively enough to move from hopeful vision to lasting impact. Strategic pathways. Neuralink's roadmap required balancing scientific rigor with commercial scaling. Initial trials prove safety and basic functionality through rigorous clinical testing. Early patients become ambassadors of the technology. Partnerships collaborate with hospitals, ophthalmology institutions, and NGOs to integrate implants into existing rehabilitation ecosystems. Affordability models explore subsidies, insurance coverage, and tiered pricing to make implants accessible across income groups. Public education counter skepticism through transparent communication, patient testimonials, and independent validation. Global expansion leverage endorsements from global leaders like Anand Mahindra to build trust in diverse markets. Social and ethical dilemmas. While the promise of restored vision is compelling, the technology raises difficult questions. Should invasive implants be promoted when non-invasive assistive technologies already provide independence? Could commercialization create inequality, where only the wealthy regain vision? How should society regulate data generated from neural implants? Who owns it? And how is it protected? At what point does medical restoration blur into human enhancement, creating ethical divides? The debate extends beyond science and medicine into philosophy, law, and governance. Looking ahead, Blindsight stands at a delicate inflection point. If successful, it could redefine the boundaries of medical technology and human potential, similar to how cochlear implants revolutionized hearing loss. If it fails, it may be remembered as an overambitious promise that collapsed under scientific and ethical scrutiny. Neuralink's challenge was not just to prove that Blindsight works, but to demonstrate that society is ready to accept, trust, and support such a radical intervention. The coming decade will reveal whether humanity is prepared to open its eyes to a new kind of vision, one born not of biology, but of silicon, code, and electricity. Teaching objectives. This case encourages students to analyze how radical innovations disrupt established sectors, the dynamics of creating uncontested markets rather than competing in existing ones, the process through which early adopters influence mainstream acceptance of technology, the ethical dilemmas at the intersection of science, society, and commerce. Discussion questions. What unique factors made Neuralink's Blindsight possible when previous attempts at vision restoration failed? How can the company balance the high cost of implants with the need for accessibility in emerging markets? What barriers might delay widespread adoption? And how could Neuralink address them? Should technologies like Blindsight be considered medical necessities or optional enhancements? If you were advising Neuralink, what strategic steps would you prioritize for the next 5 years? About the case author. Dr. KBS Kumar is an award-winning management author and educator with over 100 published case studies across business domains and more than 20 international accolades in case writing. A seasoned trainer and mentor, he has guided corporate leaders, academics, and students in mastering case writing and case-based learning, blending academic rigor with practical insights. Through the case verse, Dr. Kumar transforms real-world business events into engaging case studies, powerful resources for classrooms, corporate training, managerial development, and strategic thinking. Passionate about nurturing critical and analytical skills, his work bridges theory and practice, offering timeless lessons for navigating today's complex business world.